There is zero balance in startup phase.
It is almost impossible to have a balance when you're building something.
The success that I've experienced in my life has been because of the people around me that have supported me.
Well, you are an Emmy award-winning
that is true.
actor. Is
that
true?
That is true.
I'm very, very excited to have Kyle Noonan in studio, Alex Perry on Fire. And the way Alex Perry on Fire has morphed is really, it's interesting, but a lot of it is balance. And when I thought, who in my life lives this extremely balanced lifestyle, you came to mind. And it's not necessarily just because of the work you do, but your family life, the way you carry yourself, your friends. I respect it, but also I want to know how you got there. So Kyle, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here. I love the studio, by the way. But I wish we were doing this. The last time I saw you was in Piazza del Popolo in Rome eating pasta. So it would have been nicer to do it there, but it's good to be here.
Yeah, and in a small world, I was eating randomly in Rome, and you came up from behind me. Didn't even know you were there, basically.
Yep.
So
no, but glad to be here, and congrats on the new venture on the podcast. It's really cool.
Love it. Thank you. I want to go a little bit into the industry you're in, because I think that sets the tone for where you're at in the balance. But so many people, when they grow up, and when I said you were coming on the podcast, they're like, that's kind of a dream profession or job or industry. And I said restaurateur, but I think it's more than that, because I think you're in the entertainment restaurant industry. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that is?
Sure. So I think it's probably easier to do a little bit of background on my company. I started it with my business partner. He and I were college roommates at SMU. And we've been best friends since we were 18 years old. Post-college, I went into the hospitality space. He went into the investment banking Wall Street world. And we both did our, 10,000 hours, as you would say, in our respective careers before we decided to start our company. And our company is called FreeRange Concepts. And we started it, I guess, in 2012 is when we both left our jobs to start this company. And we spent about a year in my home office writing business plans and, just kind of mapping out what our vision was. And since then, we've opened 14 restaurants, 5 different brands, The Rustic, Bowl and Barrel, Mutt's Canine Cantina, Joe Leo, Fine Tex-Mex, and the General Public are our 5 brands. And we are very proud of what we've built. As my dad says, not too bad for a couple knuckleheads. But yeah, so we are in the certainly we're a food and beverage company. We're in the hospitality space, but we have a lot of unique offerings in some of our concepts, whether it be a 2,000 person concert venue like the Rustic, or a private membership based dog park in our Mutt's concept, or bowling at our Bowl and Barrel concept. So we have a lot of different functions, which certainly makes it challenging to operate, but it also makes it a lot of fun too, because it's not monotonous.
For sure. And you said 10,000 hours, so explain that to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a common thing that I guess it was Malcolm Gladwell did the study on experts in their respective fields, whether it's a musician or an athlete or a businessman or whatever it might be. The common thread or the connecting thing between all of these people that were experts was they had all spent at least 10,000 hours practicing their craft. And that really generally works out to about 10 years.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that. I was randomly watching something where father-son were together. It was actually Black Coffee, who's a pretty well-known DJ, and his son. And his son goes to him, "Why don't I have fruit at my table on the DJ set?" And the father goes, "Well, you haven't done your 10,000 hours yet."
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you certainly have to put in the work. And we've had a lot of fun doing it too, though. That's been something that, I'd be remiss if I didn't say. Hard work, certainly. Challenges, aplenty, especially as you're building a business. But we've never had bad days either, because we enjoy what we do.
Because you loved it.
Yeah.
And you said that you kind of once one of you had one side, your business partner had the other, and you played off that
That's
kind of
right.
to grow it.
Yeah, we're certainly yin and yang. We're very different. We're wired very differently. To give you a little color on it, he was valedictorian of our class at SMU. He was president of our fraternity. He was a business major. I was a painting and sculpting major. I was social chair of our fraternity. And so we certainly have different skill sets, which makes our partnership work really well, because what he does, I want nothing to do with, and vice versa. But we also have a tremendous amount of trust in the other person. So when it comes time to make a decision on, which way do we go, what do we do, he looks at it through his lens, I look at it through my lens, and if somebody disagrees or says no, then it's a no, and there's no argument, there's no discussion, because I trust him to look at it through his lens and using his expertise, and vice versa. So we have common values and shared trust, but very different skills, which makes our partnership and our friendship, frankly, work so well.
Love it. And
yeah.
And you said challenges, because obviously you started in 2012.
Sure.
24, so it's 12 years. But what would you say those greatest challenges to get kind of where you are today?
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, so you talked about, you'd mentioned earlier that you say I look like I have a balanced life, and I would say that's true today. That was certainly not the true in the startup, and that's where there's zero balance. There is zero balance in startup phase. But as you start to build out your team, and as you start to grow and hit to the phase of not just a startup, but now you've got a business, and then you start getting, instead of one or two people, maybe you have 10 people. Let's just make up a number. And those 10 people are still trying to do 100 tasks, but it's not 2 people doing 100 tasks. And then you go to the next phase of your kind of company life cycle, where you go not from a business, but now you've got a company. And in that phase, you were able to start bringing in experts, so that, this person does this task and they're an expert in that task. And then the final phase is you go from company to big company. And that's where you start having departments, not just one person, but you have a department running this task and another department over here. And that's where it starts to become challenging in some aspects, because you're managing a lot of people, but it puts you in a position where you can focus on doing the one thing or the two things that you're very good at, and leave the other things to others.
And you've seen it all because you were on the ground.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, we started it. It was him, my partner, and I in my home office, and that was the company.
Yeah.
And now we're at a little over 1,500 team members throughout Texas, and it's a lot different beast now. And my day-to-day looks a lot different than it did back then.
But would you say you feel like you've earned that?
Well, we've I don't know about earn. We've built it. I get kind of cautious about what I've earned, or what I'm owed, or what I deserve, because I don't know if that's something that I connect to, but
you feel if you went back in time and I think to truly excel in something, I do think you give in certain places, right? Whether that may be personal life or other places. I genuinely think that it is almost impossible to have a balance when you're building something.
Yes.
So what do you think, is there something that lacked when you were building that, when you were starting it in 12?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're working 100-hour weeks. And so there's only so many hours in a day. And unfortunately, you have to make sacrifices at that time. It's tough. I mean, I have 2 kids. I had 2 little kids back then. I just I dropped my son off at college 2 days ago, which was very hard for me, but it was bittersweet. It was exciting for him, but also, it's that next phase. But there were certainly sacrifices that were made back then, and it's a tough decision. But I think that part of the success that I've experienced in my life has been because of the people around me that have supported me during those times, and they see that I'm doing it for a purpose or for a reason. And so I've been very fortunate in that regard. And then, you get to a point now where I get to spend a lot of time with my family. As you know, I just saw you on a trip. We did a trip through Europe, Asia, and Africa with the kids, and it was amazing. And just, the bonding that we got to experience there. And the cool thing, just parents that are listening, my kids don't have an international cell phone plan. So their cell phones didn't work unless they were connected to Wi-Fi at the hotels. So they were forced to hang out with me and like be present at dinner, which was a unintended surprise, but it was a nice thing. And a month with the kids with no phones was pretty cool.
I love it. Yeah, it's the best when you almost are forced to check out.
That's right. That's right.
They have no choice.
So now I get to spend a lot of time with my kids, and it's really rewarding and fulfilling, and they're also a part of my business in the sense that they get to kind of learn from me, and they ask a lot of interesting questions, and I get to kind of be a little bit of a mentor to them as well, not just a dad.
Do you think, again, because I don't have a family, and I grinded for 10 plus years like you, and I didn't lose out on family time because I didn't have it. Maybe I lost out on some other times, right?
Sure.
But I think, it'd be better, I'd argue it's better to grind early in your career, enjoy that on the backside. Does that give you some comfort now knowing that, yeah, maybe you missed out a little bit, but because you now have this ability to go on a trip for a couple of weeks, that it kind of keeps you more at ease now with where you're at?
Sure. Yeah. I started young in life. I had kids when I was 23 and 24. I had my son at 23 and my daughter at 24. And when that happens, you're forced to grow up real fast. And so, during my 20s, I was running a company, and I was again putting in 100-hour weeks during that time. I was ambitious. I was hardworking. I was young. I had a family to support, so it kind of forced me into that mode. And during that time, I was in my 20s, and my friends didn't have kids, and they were out, going to Vegas and doing things, and I couldn't do it. But those were really, looking back on it, I didn't miss much, because when you're in your 20s, you go on a trip, but you don't have much money to spend on the trip, So you're bunking up in a hotel room with 4 other dudes. And so looking back on it now, I'm like, I was glad I missed out on that so that now I can do it. And, I'm coming up on, I've got my daughter's an incoming senior. So next year, this time I'll be an empty nester, and I'm in my early 40s, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And so it allows for a lot of flexibility on my side. And I'm still young enough to
enjoy everything.
it.
Yeah.
So, there's pros and cons. I had a conversation about this yesterday with a guy that's going to be a new dad, and he's I think he's 38, 39. And he was like, what's the benefits? What's the pros and cons, do you think? And there's certainly cons to waiting later in life. Pros to waiting later in life. Like, you have the financial capability, hopefully, to have support. When I was 22, we didn't have a nanny or a housekeeper or a night nurse or all these things that a lot of people have. We just did it, and we didn't sleep. You
figured it out.
Yeah, you figure it out. But anyway, yeah. So I think that to your point, putting in the work early is certainly preferable.
Yeah. I'm gonna switch gears on you.
Yeah.
And talk about your wife, who I know is incredible, Courtney Noonan. Yep. She is a pretty big social media influencer, maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of an original influencer, right?
That is true. And she would say, does that make her old?
Probably. No, it doesn't.
Yeah. But no, she was an influencer before Instagram. She started on Tumblr.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What does that mean for people who don't know what Tumblr is?
You're asking the wrong guy. I think it doesn't. It's not around anymore. I don't think so.
But it was original
it was kind of MySpace and Tumblr before Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes I'm critical of myself. I've been critical of other people on social media as a very unhealthy distraction. I think the way she's used it is actually for work and actually in a different realm to be helpful to people. It's sometimes it's providing like low cost, outfits that people wouldn't know that
Sure.
look incredible or think I feel like she uses it in a manner that's different than some other people. And you kind of you've managed to play off that. How does that kind of work into your relationship? Just because I think it's very interesting how much of a presence it is in your life.
Well, I will say this: to me, one of the most interesting things about her career and being an influencer is how hard she works. Before I really understood what she did, you just kind of thought, oh, she just takes a picture, puts it on the internet, and makes money. And it's not that at all. I mean, she is, she puts in more work probably a week in terms of hours than I do. Because it's nonstop, and there's always these, brand partnerships or deals that she has to do and get approvals and contracts and all. There's just tons of work, and it's very laborious. And, it's not something that she can really outsource.
Yeah. We just get to see the final picture,
That's right.
The perfect shot of this is what you,
I see the hours a day that she puts in creating content for brands, and there's certain professions where you just can't outsource, right? If you're a hairstylist, you're doing it. They want you there. You can't outsource it. So similarly with her business, I mean, she has to be involved, and it's one of the reasons why I created a company that wasn't about me. It's one reason why I will never open a Kyle Steakhouse or something, because if I put my name on the door, people want to see me there. I was very particular to make sure that I was creating a company that could run without me, more or less.
Was that for your
day to day?
And is that more for your ability, like mental health wise, wellness to live, or what is more? Because again, you not to say you don't want it to be about you. You're a great guy. People like you. They like spending time with you, right? They love to see you in a restaurant. But what was the premise of that?
Because I didn't want to be, number one, a single point of failure in the company. Like, if everything's funneling through me, then that's going to be a problem. Eventually, I'm going to make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. So I didn't want from an operational standpoint everything to funnel through me. And then secondarily, it's just a scalability issue. I can't be everywhere all the time. So it has to be not about me. It has to be about the brands and about the team. And getting back to your question about my wife, she just works so hard because she has to, because she can't structure it that way. So that was a big surprise for me on the social media side, was how hard she works and how disciplined she has to be. And then how it affects me. It just affects me because I have to take a lot of pictures of her. But I love what she does, and I'm so proud of it, and what she's built, and she just is phenomenal in her field, which is a very crowded field, and it's tough to stand out, and she's figured out a way to do that.
Yeah, and you compliment her well in it, because I think it could be difficult.
Yeah, and I have fun with it. I mean, look, it's an interesting time we live in. It certainly has its challenges too. When you're in the public eye a little bit, you have to have a thick skin, because people have opinions that people who don't know you have opinions of you, which is very odd.
Yeah.
But it kind of comes with the territory, and once you get used to it,
Sure.
And I see her go through it all the time. So it's interesting watching her deal with it.
And how do you think it affects your kids at all and how they see it?
No, my kids aren't that active on social media, at least not on the platforms that she's on or that I'm on. Snapchat's the big thing with with, that generation. So they do that's their form of social media, and I'm not on it. And they, they have an Instagram account and they go on it probably once every 3 months and, post a picture, but that's about it.
They're doing something different.
So, but the kids do kind of think it's fun and interesting.
Yeah.
They think it's funny when we're out in public and strangers come up and want to take a picture or something,
Oh, y'all.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, no, rarely of me. It's usually.
Well, you are an Emmy award-winning
that is true.
actor.
That
is that true?
That is true.
Can we hear that story real quickly?
Yeah. So I woke up one morning and got a knock at the doorbell, or a knock at the door, and somebody from the Emmys was there to deliver an Emmy that I won that I didn't know
Did you think it was the wrong address?
Yeah. And turns out, so I did a segment with NBC. This is a couple years ago, and that episode won an Emmy. And because I was on it, I therefore got an Emmy.
Was it a great episode? Obviously,
it won an Emmy. But it just, it's funny how things work out. And it was certainly, I had a lot of fun with it. I carried it around for a week and just made sure everybody addressed me as Emmy Award winner Kyle Noonan.
As they should.
Yeah. But anyway.
In a previous podcast, I talked about column A and column B, where column A is your work acumen, and B is your community, your hobbies, your lifestyle, all of these things, and how they kind of work in conjunction. And if you're working in them well, it can be kind of a great way to live your life. Can you tell me how, because again, I think from the outside and where I see, you've figured this out at a certain age that I think's priceless. In your 40s, to be able to balance your life with family, with still a business that you're growing, with distractions. We didn't talk about COVID. You were in the restaurant industry. I mean, there's, you're making things seem simple. And obviously you've said that, your work, you love it and it gives you excitement. But how are you balancing that? How are you mindfully taking that on?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, to me, a couple of things with kind of when we talk about work-life balance, I mean, that's something that everybody wants and tries to achieve. To me, what has helped me is understanding what I'm good at and doing that, and hiring other people to do the things that I'm not good at. And what that allows me to do, if you're really good at something, and we all have our talent, it allows you to make quick decisions. So you don't have to waste time, hemming and hawing and kind of get the paralysis by analysis type of issue. You can make quick decisions. They're usually going to be the right decision because it's an area of expertise that you have. And you have that wisdom and you have that experience. So you can make quick decisions. They're generally good decisions, not always, but generally. And so that frees you up for a lot of different things to have balance in other areas of your life and to, I mean, we only have so many hours in a day. All of us have the same amount. So if you can make 1 hour of work highly productive, because you're focused on that one thing that you're really good at and you can make a huge impact in that 1 hour, that's a lot better than 10 hours of being kind of somewhat adept at what you're doing. And so that's helped me a lot, just understanding what I'm good at and sticking to that. I think a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, kind of run into the problem and the challenge of letting things go. This is my company, this is my baby, I'm going to do it. The idea of, if you want something done right, do it yourself kind of thing. Well, I just don't subscribe to that. I think that if you want something done right, hire somebody that's good at that thing and let them do it. And to be fair, that's not always easy to do when you're starting out. I mean, you have to build up to that, but building up to that was always kind of our goal. And then just having a great support system around you, having a great family, having great, employees or team members or bosses or coworkers. having a great partner, whatever, just the people that are around you in your life, having great friends that support you. Allow your life to be a lot more balanced, because you're able to do the thing that you're good at and stick to that.
What do you think I mean, again, I see it and I feel it, and a great energy on the top. I see you sometimes enjoying life with a drink and a cigar. It just seems,
That's
ideal.
where I don't have balance. My diet is not a balanced diet.
Do you ever think, what's my watch out? What do I have to be careful with?
Yeah. I mean, I think, my business lends itself to having a lot of blind spots in it. I've got a lot of team members. There's alcohol involved. The lifespan of a typical restaurant is not that long. And so that always keeps you on edge, certainly. I mean, to last 10 years in my business is rare. I mean, a lot of restaurants don't make it that long. And especially to be 10 years in, well, we're going on 11 years, on 3 of our concepts. And they're just as busy, if not busier today as they were back then, which is a rare thing. So it's a testament to the team and the job they do there. But the blind spots are certainly always there. And I mean, there's snakes in the grass and pitfalls that you can run into very easily. I will say probably the number one thing in my business that derails people really quickly is the fact that there's alcohol involved, which is one of the reasons why my partner and I, we've never had a drink at one of our restaurants. We don't socialize there. That is not a place fun for us. I mean, it's fun because we love our business, but we're not going there to have fun.
Yeah.
And having that discipline and that maturity from day one has been a big part of why we're a stable company.
You seem to know where your strengths and weaknesses are, but I think that takes time to figure out. How did you come to those conclusions with where you were in your business?
Yeah, well, I think the first part about that is humility and honesty with yourself. Being able to be willing to admit that you're not going to be good at everything. I think you can't address a problem, or you can't fix a problem unless you address the problem, right? And so that's the first step, is you have to be willing to admit, I'm not great at everything. And typically we all have, whether it's teachers, coaches, bosses, parents, people in your life tell you what you're not doing well. And if you hear it enough, hey, maybe you're not that great at this, maybe you are better at that, and you're willing to admit that they might be right. I think that's a great thing. But then also, I think, absent of other people and outside influences, if just paying attention to what you naturally are gifted at and what you struggle at. If you're having if something is taking a little bit more time than it should, maybe you're not that good at that thing.
So you became pretty aware of these things early on. And did you think that you took that because it worked in your professional life, that you took it to the personal side?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, as a, I'm probably would fit into the alpha male category. It's a lot of times you're wired to think you're the hero, you're Superman, and you want to be, especially to your family. And a lot of times that comes with ego and a lot of hubris. And I don't know. I think as you get older and you mature, you start to let go of that ego, and realize that your family is there for you, to support you and love you, and you've got to do the same. And part of that means giving up some of your desires to be Superman. You know.
Well, I think you become comfortable with who you are, and
that's probably a better way to say it. Yeah.
Well, I think as you become comfortable,
Yeah.
the confidence that you're good at certain things and not just allows you to excel in those things and kind of take a seat back to the things you probably shouldn't be in.
Totally.
Right.
I mean, when I was in my 20s, I wanted to be the smartest guy in the room. I wanted to, be the first to talk at a meeting, the last to talk at a, and as you get older, you do become more comfortable with yourself, as you said. And, I've learned to shut up. And I wasn't always that way, but I've learned to shut up a lot of times now and just listen.
I always smile when something resonates hard with me, and I've had to learn that too. And you say, let other people talk first. They might say something that's better than you talking first, right?
Yeah.
Or don't be the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
And little things, it just takes, I think it does, you said it, but it takes setting your ego aside.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it's almost admitting to yourself, I am really good at something, which has ego, but at the same time telling yourself, I'm also really not very good at many other things.
Right. Yeah.
And that's part of it. And it's also, it's life and work. I mean, almost so much more in relationships, it feeds into work, right?
Sure.
And sometimes life checks you, right? I mean, that's
Definitely.
the beauty of it, right?
It's interesting. I'm right now working on my master's in business, because, and it's probably more just for a personal challenge than anything, because I was the painting and sculpting major as an undergrad, and maybe I feel a little bit like I need to push myself in the business side a little bit more, even though I feel like I've gotten my PhD in business over the last 20 years from just being in business. I still wanted to go do it, and it was really interesting because you sit in these classrooms, and the program that I'm in, it's all presidents or CEOs of companies, and so these are all alpha people. It's really funny to see the few people in the room that raise their hand every time, that always want to dominate, that suck out the oxygen out of the room. And there's a lot of people in there that are very quiet and they're just listening. And I chose to be the latter just because I knew my opinions. I don't need to hear myself talk. I wanted to hear everybody else talk. But it's kind of funny to see the other side, and those people jump out real quick, and they kind of start to annoy people real quick. And it's pretty interesting.
Well, you almost realize what you don't want to be by seeing something that you don't like. I've seen that where I'm like, oh, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
So you take a step back.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because you almost need hardships to understand this as well, right? When everything's going smooth, you're acting and reacting and just being, and you're not thinking. It's when you've made a mistake, you're like, did I play that right?
Right.
Or am I doing this right? You almost need those lessons, right?
Absolutely.
I've asked you this before, and again, it's because it's about energy. What fires you up every day? Because you've been in the business 10,000 plus hours. What keeps you going? What?
Yeah, so one of my favorite philosophies or principles is Tony. Do you know who Tony Hsieh is? The Zappos founder.
Yeah.
He has a principle. He calls it his snooze button theory. Have you heard of it?
No.
So his kind of rule for life. Now he's since passed, but his rule for life in business, at least, was if he ever hits a morning where he's hitting the snooze button, he knows he's not doing the right thing, and he needs to change course. Because if he's not waking up and super excited to attack the day, then he's got to figure out what's going to motivate him. So that's always kind of stuck with me. And I'll tell you, my business is just fun. I have an advantage because when people are coming to me, when my customer is coming to me, they're coming to have a good time, and it's my job to deliver that. And that's a great place to be. It's like being a dentist would be awful to me, like, because nobody likes to go to the dentist, right?
Yeah, they're enjoying going to your restaurants,
right.
And you create that entertainment and that fun atmosphere.
Exactly.
And you get to build off that.
Yeah, and so I think we're all social creatures to a certain degree, but I certainly am. I don't like to be by myself. I like to be around other people, and that's what energizes me. Is just having people around me having a good time.
I love it. Someone told me once, they said, if you hit snooze, you're starting the day procrastinating.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
There you go. I mean, in my business, and the only thing we really hire for is people with a sense of hospitality. And I know that sounds obvious, but it's really not. It's often lost. And my business is really just built on people taking care of other people. And that's what I love to do. I love, you come over to my house, you're going to have a cocktail within 30 seconds. You're going to, kind of cook you anything. That's just what I love to do.
Yeah.
And I just get a lot of enjoyment out of that. So it's very easy for me to stay motivated.
I love it. And on the contrary, my brother was with Brinker, and he would notice every time because he was in the service industry, that things weren't going right. Do you have to turn your brain off sometimes?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Which is, again, one of the reasons why I don't go to my restaurants for fun, because I could never sit and relax, because I'm always like, wait, that change this, fix that,
But you figured it out. And I say, you look young to me, in a relatively short period of time, you figured it out. Even with kids at a young age, second marriage, obviously, I know the relationship with your wife now, which seems incredible, and the relationship you have with your kids and the restaurant and all that stuff. And it sounds like, I guess, if you could give one advice to someone in the audience who's saying, I want to be a restaurateur, because so many people want to be, right? Or in this business, it's easy to say, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak for you. Obviously, you said something you love, but you brought something past that for 10,000 hours of establishing what you want.
Right.
Just in closing, what do you think that one thing is that said, this is you got there, in my opinion, right? And
I'm getting there. I'm trying. I would, if anybody came to me and said they wanted to start a restaurant, the first thing I would say is don't. One, it's really hard, and two, we have enough. But jokes aside, I think the biggest thing that I've had to learn is patience. I'm not a patient guy. I want things now. I want it done quick. I want, and having patience and knowing that things do take time to happen. You gotta leave the cake in the oven for the appropriate amount of time for it to bake. That's been the biggest challenge for me, because it's very easy to get impatient and then therefore lose focus or quit or, change course or whatever. But stay the course, keep your head down. If you're disciplined and you just keep moving forward, eventually it does happen, but it doesn't happen nearly as quick as you think it would.
Yeah.
And so that has been probably the biggest lesson that I've learned, and the biggest thing that I've had to balance is my desire to move quickly and make things happen fast and big, and know that you can't always do it as quick and as big and as fast as you want.
Love it.
So in my company, we joke, I'm the gas and my partner's the brakes.
Love it.
Which is a great combination, because you need both, right?
I had a twin brother where I was the brakes, he's the gas.
Yeah.
So I've 41 years I've lived
there. There you go. So, but that I think speaking of success, you've obviously done very well for yourself, and congratulations on. I love seeing you just dominate the real estate world.
Well, again, almost what you said, it's about the people around you and the joy. I mean, literally to the tune of what you said. I don't think it's complicated. You find something you love, put 10,000 hours into it, you stay patient, you stay disciplined and focused. I'm sure people have thrown many, many ideas at you, and you say, nope, this is what we're good at. And then it happens, right? And you just have that attitude. And I think it's all about attitude. And then, I don't know, the universe pays you back. And then you meet like-minded people, and you enjoy, and you share it. Because at the end of the day, that's what you want. And it ends, I'll end with this, and it's about sharing. Each guest, we donate to a charity of their choice. And so we'd like you to let us know what charity you'd like us to donate on behalf of Alex Perry on Fire.
Yeah, so we support many charities, but the one we're really focused on is Folds of Honor right now, which supports vets, which is a great cause, and they're a great group, and I certainly, on behalf of them, I appreciate that.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Well, that was incredible. I love your story. I want to know more about the Emmy.
I'll have me on for another episode, and I'll bring it with me.
Next time we'll just put it right behind you. But no, thank you for coming on. It's truly special, and I'm proud to call you a friend.
Likewise. Thanks, pal.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Alex Perry on Fire. It means so much to me and the wonderful team that makes this all possible. I'm now passing the flame to you. Please follow, like, and subscribe so you can always stay up to date. Thanks again, and stay fired up.